Hey, welcome back to the channel. Got a little something on the bench for you here. Maybe it ain't too little. 7-inch ripper. So in the whole grand scheme of things, trying to build me a 7-inch freestyle, really grunty, aggressive ripper. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not working out so well. This isn't my first 7-inch quad, but this is definitely the one that's given me the most headache. And I have spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure this out. I've involved other people. I've just kind of been bothering all these people to kind of get feedback on the black box data that I've collected. And I think I've figured out exactly what it is. And in this video, I'm going to go through some things before I disassemble this frame completely and send it back. So I want to kind of let you see what it's doing, show you some black box, and then I'll wait some time to finish this video once I get a new frame that doesn't have the issues that I'm dealing with, and show you the result of that. But yeah, this thing is going to be, big field, ripper. I love my 3-inch. This thing is my favorite as 3-incher. If you've followed this channel for very long, this is just my absolute favorite little quad. I just love ripping him around. But you can get a good idea of what we're dealing with here. So no further ado, before we get started, we want to take our props off. Do I have to say props off again? You got to take your props off. If you plug a lipo into your quad and you're not putting it on the flight line to take off, you really need to take your props off. More and more every day I'm seeing people just get seriously injured. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to grab our radio here.
Hey, Propsoff. What are you going to fly now?
I've already got it bound
Switch
up.
warning.
I'm in acro from flying earlier tonight. So we're going to go over here and jump into... So I've already got it bound up, ready to go. And what I want to do is I want to put a piece of foam underneath here. I don't really want the PID loop to see a lot of vibration. So this foam, will kind of insulate it from this hard surface. If you have a quadcopter and you're doing any type of work, if you're in beta flight just doing the motor tabs, that's one thing. But if you're entering the PID loop into the equation just to keep from smoking your motors, you might want to put a little foam under it, because if it's on a direct surface, the eye gain is just going to go berserk and the thing's going to just spool up like crazy. I really don't like running more than 20% on the bench. But I want you to look at all 4 motors, and I want you to look at the base that's inside the motor shafts. So take a look at the little circles there, and that's going to kind of give you the best view of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my transmitter here, plug in the lipo, and arm it up. The receiver's kind of close to so we're just going to go ahead and spool it up. I'm going to throttle it up to about a hover. I don't know if you could see that. Can you see that? It's kind of hard in film. I'm going to zoom in for you. Okay. So you could tell it's not like revving up like crazy, because if we put it directly on here, it'll rev up a little bit. But I did do a 3D printed foot here. So this does have some cushion, so it's not directly on a solid surface. But let me go ahead and I'll zoom in on this motor. All 4 of them do the same thing, so we'll just zoom in on this one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just spool it up, maybe 20 or 30% throttle. All right, you see that? Can you see this shaft kind of wallering? It's kind of making a egg shape, and I'm about maybe 15% throttle. That's about 25, 30, maybe 35, 40%. I really don't want to heat these up anymore, but all 4 motors are doing that. Let me zoom out for you. All right, so you can imagine if you had the props on and you were creating a load, it wouldn't just be like a bizarre, oscillation, it would be very magnified. So just at a hover a couple feet off the floor, and I would get this black box data, the motors would just be smoking hot. Right now they're pretty warm. I should have grabbed my temperature gun and showed you what the temperature is. I mean, it's not like hurting my hand by any means, but it's definitely warmed up, and it really shouldn't be for what we just did. But you can see that on that motor, all 4 of them do it, and it's just like an egg shape oscillation of the shaft. Now you can imagine when you put a load on that thing, I mean, you're talking quite a bit of
telemetry lost.
quite a bit of torque, which is going to definitely increase the oscillating component. So let me put this back on the bench. Let me show you something here. This is really quite something. So I take this motor here. Let's center it up here. Just look at the belt. Don't look at the tool because it's not a real perfect fit. But just holding this quad firmly against. Now, mind you, my 3D prints are the spot of where it's, basically the fulcrum point of the arms is going to be out here, not inside, in the center. So I'm holding this down. It's putting pressure here. And look at this. Look at the bell. I'm barely pulling and pushing on this. Okay. Now, if I grab a hold of this and just give it a little bit more, I mean, if I really torque on that thing, it's not delaminated. The arm is very nice looking. It's very smooth. I'll give you a close up of it. But this is what I'm finding out is the problem. Just an amazing amount of, I mean, obviously I could take my hands like this and just, barely any pressure and torque these back and forth. Now the frame itself is pretty strong this way. I don't really get a lot of movement, and I don't get any movement hardly at all going that direction. I could put a lot of force on that, and I don't hardly get any movement. But this articulating like this is really screwing things up. It's sending a ton of motor noise into the gyro that's just making it unflyable, basically. So I just need to take this all apart, send the frame back, and source a different frame. Now, in my communication with the Cleveland guys, I've kind of run around and talked to a handful of people that are running the Street League class. So, like, what are they finding? Because these are 2807 motors. So you need something that's going to have a little beef to it. And I was recommended for price the Source 1. Now, this is a Source 1 V4 Dead Cat. The Source 1 V3 has 6mm arms, 2 mounting points on each arm instead of this uni plate or something. So there's 2 screws holding the arms where they kind of connect inside. Let me show you some black box real quick. So as you can see from the black box, it's just, the motors are just, bang, 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 bang. The D term is just slope. And I mean, it's like high dive. It's terrible. And the motors, I mean, literally, if you put your hand like that on the motors, after a 5-second hover, it would burn you. I mean, these motors will get super hot. And like I said, I'm almost embarrassed. I kind of had to get to a certain point and an embarrassing amount of hours of trying to diagnose it. I mean, it's off camera, but I've got like the rest of this quad in piles up here. I've got all kinds of wiring. I've tried different caps, different components, unwired, rewired. It was just a mess to look at this thing and to kind of finally came to terms. I had to kind of hate this build to the point where I was really willing to kind of test it. I mean, this is not something that I would want to do with a new build, but it just kind of shows you. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on that. Let me get a tool that fits this even tighter. So in the shaft pretty tight. Let me zoom in. You got to see this. This is just crazy. So looking at the bell, I mean, that's just, I mean, you can see the white of my finger. You know, if I was pinching this really, really hard, it would just, you know, you could see the pressure, you know, to make a good YouTube video. But you could tell I'm not giving that any, I mean, it's basically the weight of this little driver that's causing that to waller back and forth. And the screws are tight, trust me. Every screw on this thing is as tight as it can be. And I mean, that's ridiculous. That's like, there's no way. I mean, honestly, there's no way in my mind somebody could legitimately tune this quad out with this frame. Now, if you fly this frame and you don't have these issues, hey, you know, that's one thing. No hate mail, please. But this frame, let me zoom out for you here, is just something else. I mean, I'm done. I'm kind of frustrated right now, and it's late at night. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this, and I'm going to source a new frame. I'll finish this video once that happens, build the quad up, fly it, make sure everything's cool, and then finish the video. I want to proof or verify this theory before I put the video out. But let me grab my 5-inch quad, like a I mean, this freestyle quad's tuned so smooth and nice. Let me grab it real quick and I'll spool it up and you can watch the motor stems on it. Hold on just a second. And it's a V3 source 1, but it's a 5-inch instead of 7. But let me grab that real quick. Be kind of fun to look at. Alright, so I got my 5-incher on the bench here. Lighting looks okay. Alright, so let me put my foam underneath here. Because like I said, I don't like smoking motors. If you're going to allow the PID loop to take over, you need to insulate it from your surface. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. I've already got the transmitter set up on the correct model. My props are off. Okay. This is my old school build. I mean, these are like 5-6-year-old ESCs in here. This thing is just, check out my my LEDs. Can you see that? Yeah, they're really bright at night. They're pretty spectacular. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and arm this up. 0 volts because there's no telemetry on that receiver. Let me, you know what? Let me zoom in on this motor. Same one as the other one. Let me zoom in for you. All right, so we're going to zoom in, and don't look at all the grass and dirt, and don't look inside there either. This is my beater. I love this thing. All right, and you can see all the windings. They just, oh, they've been roasted. Anyway, so let's go ahead and spool this up a little bit here. So I'll go, we'll go 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I really don't like to go much more than that. Now these are Strix motors. These babies can, I mean, they're ice cold. Like I said, this has got a pretty nice tune on it too. But there's no twist. This frame, this is the V3, the TBS open source V3 5-inch frame. There's no twist. I mean, it's really robust frame, right? But if you look at that hole right there, I mean, there's no movement at all. And this thing is, let me zoom out for you here. I guess I ought to tell you what the stack is. It's a Hobby Wing 60 amp ESC with the flight controller, which is the convertible F7. And this comes in a stack. So it's called the Hobby Wing F7 convertible. And, you know, shout out to Hobby Wing for, you know, throwing another ESC and flight controller at me after looking at the black box data and seeing that, you know, something really looked off. Never really suspected the frame. Motors are new. I chased one motor around, no issues, but was unwilling to really kind of twist on this thing. And really, yeah, I just didn't hate it enough. So I'm going to go ahead and finish here, and we'll go ahead and pick up on the next part, and you'll see this whole thing on a new frame. And like I said, I'll go ahead and verify it before I start filming. So I'll go ahead and get the frame on order, and in a couple weeks here working on it. All right, it's been a couple weeks. That went really fast, didn't it? Maybe for you. So I got my new frame. Super excited. It's a CNC Madness. Talked to them on the phone, kind of went through a couple things with them, and then they have a 7mm thick option. So I went ahead and went with the 7mm thick arms. So this is just the Source 1 V3 7-inch with the 7mm thick arm option. So basically that's everything in a nutshell. So as far as the motor, if you look at the bell here as before, let me get that in the light where you can see it. So we'll hold the frame down. I really don't want to torque on this very much because this is, I don't want to bend my motor shaft, but you can see that that's way better. And this is the tool I used last time. So it kind of fit in there a little bit more, but that's a fair amount of torque. I really don't want to give it too much. So you can see that the movement on that is minimal, if any. So pretty sturdy. So I went ahead and gave this, I already flew this line of sight and gave it a rip and got some black box data for you. So I had to redo all my TPU prints because this frame is actually wider than the V4. So if that gives you any idea what the thickness of the arm used to be, so that would fit over the arm all the way around of the previous frame. Just wasn't enough. And then also that twist isn't something that should have been happening anyway, so something was not right with that carbon. So while I have you zoomed in here, I'm going to go ahead and place my foam underneath the quad. I'll go ahead and plug it in, and we'll look at this motor as we did before to kind of see the difference in oscillation.
Telemetry recovered. 3.8 volts.
That's about 10 or 15%. Went up to 70%. Not even a little bit of that egg-shaped vibration that was sending a ton of noise into the gyro. So let me go ahead and zoom out for you. So pretty happy about that. Let me see if I can center this up just right. So I'll do all 4 motors. You can kind of see those.
3.8 volts.
Now, if you paid attention to this motor, it was just as shiny and as smooth as could be. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I've done absolutely nothing different other tんthe frame. So the receiver, the hobby wing convertible stack, the 60 amp ESC, the F7 flight controller, everything is exactly the same as what it was. So for that is a very good comparison to just see what that motor noise looked like. So let's go ahead and look at this black box data that I've just collected. Now I did the same exact thing. So the black box data is exactly the same as I did before. So just like that 5-second hover, just a couple feet above the floor. The motors were nice and cool, and well, you can see from the black box data. All right, so you can see from the black box data, there's just that little bit of motor noise. Nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing compared to what it was. So just keep in mind, this is like bone stock Betaflight 431. Haven't changed anything. Everything is completely stock PIDs, stock filters. I think, you know, the object of the game for me here is to try to get as much mechanical noise out of this thing before doing any tuning. That's kind of the best case scenario. Try to knock out anything you can before you go in and change in filters and PIDs and all that jazz. So there is something that I'm working on. I have printed these little plates. They're TPU, just kind of little squish TPU plates, about 1 millimeter thick, and I'm going to put them underneath each motor and hopefully knock out even more vibration. I actually have screws on order, so I've got some 12 millimeter screws for the motors, because right now they're 10 millimeter. So I got some 12 millimeters coming with also a 1 millimeter nylon washer. So I'm going to put a nylon washer on the back, put this in between the motor and the frame, and hopefully knock that out. I'll have another video coming out for that. So once these screws and parts and pieces come in, I'll go ahead and put those in and do the exact same thing I just did. Just that, leave this quad alone. I'm just going to do a couple foot hover, about 5 seconds, and then I'll have 3 black box data of the V4 frame that I had. I should say that Race Day Quads immediately gave me a refund on it after I showed them the video, and was able to use that hobby dollar for this frame. So it'd be kind of neat to see that video with 3 different black box, and then, like, does it really make that big of a difference mechanically without changing a thing? Only thing, just putting in some insulation, is that really going to help even more? But I hope that this video had helped you out, kind of getting some idea. Like I said, it was really a bizarre thing to see the black box data, to not hear that type of oscillation. So pretty informative. I've learned a lot in the process, because let me tell you what, I've rewired this thing. I used 3 different flight controllers, 2 different ESCs, and thank Hobby Wing for making that happen. They were kind of right along with me to kind of help figure that out, and I kind of felt bad the whole time. It was just the frame oscillating around so bad. But you know, we're all learning, right? So hopefully this video helped you out, and look forward to that video, and then an unbagging. I'll try to get some weights and some measurements and kind of look at the frame and how things fit, and so that video will come out too. So both videos. So if you're not subscribed, maybe think about that. And, you know, if this video helped you out, you know, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you hated it. Man, you give it a thumbs down, it all works. Enjoy the breeze.